Hello guys, welcome back to YT Classroom. I hope you all are doing well. So today we're going to be solving Igcse Mathematics Paper 4 Variant 2 from Feb March 2025. This is the paper from the newest syllabus of 0580. The updates to paper 2 I have told in my previous video, and for the updates to paper 4 this is now a 2-hour paper and it has 100 marks, but you can use calculator in this paper unlike paper 2. Also, the formula sheet that has been provided in paper 2 is also provided here, so you can use these formulas throughout the paper, and I'll be telling you the exact questions where I use these formulas so that you don't have to learn any more formulas and it just makes your work a lot more easier. So let's get started with this paper. Before that, if you are new to this channel, do not forget to like, share and subscribe for more helpful content on IGCSE topics, AS and A-level topics, especially for the upcoming May-June 2025 series. Alright, let's get started with this paper. This paper has 23 questions and I'm going to be explaining each of them in depth. Alright, so the first question here. Write down a factor of 28 that is a prime number. Now, 28 can be written as 2 into 2 into 7. So that's the prime factorization, or that's the factorization of 28. So we know that 2 and 7 both are factors of 28 and both of them are prime. So I can either write 2 or 7. 2 or 7. Any one of these answers would be accepted. Okay, the next question is simplify. 4y squared plus 3y minus y squared plus 2y. Now what is 4y squared minus y squared? That becomes 3y squared. And what is 3y plus 2y? That becomes 5y. Y is common here, so I can factorize y out. It would be 3y plus 5. So y into 3y plus 5. Y into 3y plus 5. Alright, now we move on to question number 3. It says shade 2 more small squares to make a pattern with 2 lines of symmetry. Now if I look at this image, there are 4 squares that have been shaded and I have to shade 2 more so that I can get 2 lines of symmetry. So I would be shading this box and this box, because this would then allow me to create 2 lines of symmetry, which I will be showing you here as well. So one would be this diagonal, which goes somewhat like this. Yes. And the other line of symmetry would be the perpendicular to this line, which passes to the other 2 corners of the square. So somewhat like that. Yes. So this is the 2 boxes that you have to shade to get 2 lines of symmetry. Now obviously this question does not require a lot of like the formulas and stuff, and it all dependent on your practice and maybe your thinking skills as well. So please do practice these types of questions or any other symmetry questions that you see on the past papers, because they can turn out to be very random at times. Alright. After that, we have question number 4, which says calculate 20.24 minus the cube root of 30 over 6.5. And we just have to put this in our calculator. 20.24 minus the root of 30 over 6.5. 6.5. That gives me, if I write the complete answer just for you guys to verify, 2.635 810 384. 2.24 minus the cube root of 30 over 6.5. So to one decimal place, that would basically be 2.6. Alright, I hope that part is clear as well. And for this is again a very easy question to score marks on, so please be careful with these types of questions, especially when you're typing in the values on the calculator, because I have personally got many questions wrong just because I've typed the wrong values in the calculator. Alright, now we move on to question number 5. The question number 5 says a pattern is formed by 3 congruent triangles. Each rectangle is a rotation of 90 degrees around one vertex of the rectangle next to it. The point A has coordinates 2 and 5. The point B has coordinates 4 and 1.5. Work out the coordinates of point C and point D. Alright, so here we have 3 triangles. I'm going to show you that they have been rotated. Now, to understand that they have been rotated, for example, I'm going to be drawing the rectangle same over here. If you see this part, so the rectangle in red, let's say this is our initial rectangle. Okay, then if I take this and if I try to rotate it, it would look somewhat like this. Okay, it would look somewhat like this. It fits exactly over here. So that means that it has been rotated about this point. It has been rotated about this point. After that, if I rotate it one more time, it would go and look somewhat like this. Right, it would go and look somewhat like this, or maybe even if it was here, wait, hold on, it was here, it is rotated about 1 point, so it would be like this, and then it goes over here. So that means it has been rotated about the point C. Okay, that's not really the question we're asked for. I'm just showing this to explain that they have been rotated. Now, it says that you have to work out the coordinates of point C and point D. So to work out the coordinates, it's better if you work out the height and the width of these rectangles. Now you see A is 0.2 and Y. So that means the Y coordinate over here, it is 5. On the other hand, the Y coordinate over here, it is 1.5, which is from B, 1.5. So that means the length of this is 5 minus 1.5, which is 3.5. That's the length. Okay, on the other hand, what about the width? So here the x coordinate is 2, which is from here. And here the x coordinate is 4, which is the x coordinate of B. So that means the width is basically 2. The width is basically 2. Okay. Now let's think about it. What would be the coordinates of this point? The point I'm referring to is this one. What would be the coordinates of this point? It would have the same x coordinates as of B, which is going to be 4, and the y coordinates would be the same as that of A, which is going to be 5. All right. I hope you understand that how we got coordinates 4 and how we coordinates the 5. Okay. Now to work out the coordinates of this point, which is over here, we're going to what we're going to do is that it's going to have the same y coordinates as A because it is parallel along the y-axis. So this is going to be 5. What about the x coordinates? Now we saw that the length of the rectangle is 3.5. So if we add 4 plus 3.5, it would basically be 4 plus 3.5 would be 7.5. So this point would be 7.5 and 5. Okay. What about the coordinates of C then? It would have the same x coordinates, so it would be 7.5. But now the height is 2, so 5 minus 2 would be 3. I hope this is clear how I've got the coordinates for C. The coordinates of C are 7.5 and 3. After that, the next question, the next part, it's basically how do you find the coordinates of D. Now to find the coordinates of D, we're going to figure out this point first. This point, basically the coordinates of this point, it's going to be the same x coordinates same y coordinates as of C, so it's going to be 3. And the x coordinates, they will increase by 2 because the width is 2. So 7.5 plus 2 is 9.5. So this point is 9.53. So D would also be 9.5. But what would be the height? The height is 3.5. So 3 plus 3.5 is 6.5. So it's going to become 9.5 and 6.5. 9.5 and 6.5. So what we're doing is we're basically calculating the height and the width first, and then we're calculating the coordinates of various points to somehow determine the coordinates of C and D. It's not a very hard question, but just looks a bit hard. Okay. The coordinates again, C is 7.5 and 3. On the other hand, D is 9.5 and 6.5. 7.5, 3, 9.5 and 6.5. All right. Next question. Each week, Nisha is paid $12 per hour for the first 40 hours she works. She's paid $30, 30% more per hour for any extra hours that she works. 1 week, Nisha works for 45.5 hours. Calculate how much she's paid that week. Now, obviously, we know that 45.5 hours means that she has worked 5.5 hours extra. So first of all, we need to calculate her pay per hour in overtime. So that is going to be, she's paid 30% more. So we calculate 30% of 12. Now 30% of 12 is basically 3.6. Okay. So when we add the original pay, which is 12 plus 3.6 is 15.6. Another way to calculate this quantity in one step is simply to find 130%. So 130 out of 100 into 12 will give you same as 15.6. Okay. So this is our pay. Now for the first 40 hours that she worked, she was paid $12 per hour. So 40 times 12. And the remaining 5.5 hours, because she worked for 45.5 hours, so 5.5 hours is extra. She's going to be paid in 15.6. When we put that in a calculator, 40 into 12 plus 5.5 into 15.6, it gives you 565.8. 565.8. Since this is an amount figure, I'm going to write it as 565.80. All right. Or you can write 565.8, it would still be correct. All right, now let's move on to the next question. The next question says, the table shows the mass and the mass of each 10 babies. So there's the age given and there's a mass given. And also a scatter diagram where on the x-axis you have the age in weeks and the y-axis it has the mass in kg. Complete the scatter diagram complete the scatter diagram. The first 6 points have been plotted for you. All right. Now, the point that you have to point is starting from here. So age 9 and mass of 4 point. Age is 9 weeks and mass is 4.5. So age 9 and mass of 4.5. That would be somewhere over here. 4.5, right? Oh, 4.6. Sorry. So it would be a bit higher. 4.6 would be somewhere over here. Age 9, mass 4.6. The next one is age 7 and mass of 4.5. So age 7 and mass of 4.5. Mass of 4.5. After that, we have age 1 and mass of 2.5. So 1 and 2.5. And after that, we have one more, which is age 11 and 5.3. So 11 and 5.3. Okay, 11 and 5.3. Now we got to draw. It says that what type of correlation is shown in the diagram. So correlation basically means that how are the two values related, and we can clearly see in the diagram as the age values increase, the mass increases as well. So there is a positive correlation between these two values of age and mass. Positive correlation. On the scatter diagram, draw a line of best fit. So basically, a line of best fit is a line which will summarize kind of, let's say, all of your data. So it passes through most of the points, as many points as possible. It has equal number of points above and below the thing. All right, now let's try to get a line of best fit. The line of best fit would be somewhat like this. It should pass through this point, I believe. Okay, it passes through this point. Let's try this. Hold on. No, this one seems a bit too far away from every point. Okay, what about this point then? Yeah. Now, if you see on this line, how many points have we got above? 1, 2, and 3. On the other hand, how many points have we got below? 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Which is all right, although it could be a bit better. Let me see. Can we make any better graph? Can I include any points from others? Okay, this would be an ideal one. So ideal one, obviously it has equal number of points, but sometimes you cannot have an equal number of points. So a difference of 1 would still be all right. Use your line of best fit to estimate the mass of a 14-week-old baby. So the 14-week, it's going to be lying on this line. So we're going to take the interpretation of the y value at this x value, right? Basically, if you see, it's going to be somewhat over here. So what is this value? We'll take this value somewhat, let's say. And that is approximately 6.1. If you see, if I just draw it on the graph as well, it is pointing to 6.1. So the value of this one would be 6.1 kilograms. Okay, 6.1 kilograms. Obviously, this value can vary depending on the line of best fit. So they give a range of answers in the marking scheme. After that, we move on to question number 8. The question number 8 says the scale drawing shows the positions of boat A and boat B. The scale is 1 centimeter represents 0.5 kilometers. Find the actual distance between boat A and boat B. Now, I just want to tell you guys that this paper is actually a scanned copy of the original paper. So I might not be able to get an exact value of this, but when you print out the paper, you should be using the same method as I do to get the exact values and also for the next part of this question. So to find the distance, I simply take my ruler and then put it between 0 would be on the A value, on the center of the A value, and B would be, let's say, 4 centimeters. Is this 1x zoom? Yeah. So this points to 0, this points to 4. So it is approximately 4 centimeters. If you take that on the scale, 4 centimeter, because 1 centimeter is 0.5 kilometers, so 4 centimeters would be 2 kilometers as per my reading on the device. This might not be correct as per the marking scheme. Okay. After that, it says that there's a lighthouse L that lies on the east of boat A and boat B. So first of all, where is east? North is up, so south would be down, and then west would be on this side, so east would obviously be on this side. Okay. North, south here. That's fine. After that, it says that lighthouse L lies on the east of the boats A and B. L is 4.4 kilometers from boat A and 3.3 kilometers from boat B. So we're going to figure out that how do we draw this using our construction arcs, right? How do we draw this using our construction arcs? Just give me a minute. How can I get a construction arc over here? Okay, never mind. Okay, there's a slight of issue here. I messed up these values. So this is ideally supposed to be west, north, south, west, and east. Okay, now I just messed up these directions. I'm really sorry for that, but I hope you really get the concept that where exactly are we trying to point the location L on the basis of A and B. So they say that it's on the east. On the east means towards the right. Okay, this would be east. Sorry, this would be east, west, east. So it would basically be towards the right of the line AB. So if the line AB is over here, so we are saying that L would be in somewhere in this region, right? Somewhere in this region. Next up, it says that L is 4.4 kilometers from both A and 3.3 kilometers from both B. So how would you construct it? I'm not going to be able to show you the construction, but I'll show you the steps which you can use to make the construction out on yourself. Okay, so we're going to need a compass over here. A compass is a tool which has a pencil on one end. So this would be a pencil end and this would be your needle. For the first one, it says 4.4 kilometers. Because we have to draw a scale drawing, we need to convert 4.4 kilometers to centimeters. So 1 centimeter, it is basically equivalent of 0.5 kilometers. So 8.8 centimeters, 4.4 kilometers, it will be equivalent of 8.8 centimeters. Okay, 4.4 kilometers is 8.8 centimeters, and 3.3 kilometers on the other hand, it would basically be 6.6 centimeters. So what I want to do is I want you guys to open the compass with the distance between the needle and the pencil to be 8.8 centimeters. Okay, then you would fix your needle at this point A and draw something which is called as an arc on the other hand, which you're over here, somewhat over here. Okay, now you're going to repeat the same method but putting a needle on B and reducing your compass distance to 6.6. Okay, reducing your compass distance from 6.6, and then put your needle here and draw another arc over here. The point at the intersection of both of these arcs is basically the position of L. I hope this is clear. Again, you open the compass at the distance which is specified, you put the needle at the point A and draw an arc, you draw another arc, and the point of intersection of both the arcs will be your position of L. If you guys have any doubts, please post on the comments below, or if you want me to check your drawing, you can email me as well and I'll be happy to assist you with your questions. Okay, now we'll move on to the next question. The next question says write down 0.00709 in standard form. Okay, so again, a very simple question, and if you have a calculator, it becomes much more easier to do these types of questions. Just give me a minute. Okay, so we're going to be seeing that how can we do this with the help of a calculator. Now, one method is you simply put this value 0.00709 in a calculator. You would get 7.09 into 10 raised to negative 3. Or basically, you know that in a standard form, there has to be one non-zero value, which is before the decimal place. So if you move the steps 1, 2, and 3, so it would be 7.09, and 3 steps to 10 raised to negative 3. But if you have a calculator, it becomes much more easier, and it's the safest option to do as well, because with the calculator, you know that this is not going to be wrong. After that, it says work out 4 into 10 raised to 4 squared. So what is 4 into 10 raised to 4? 4 into 10 raised to 4, it is basically 40,000. And 40,000 squared is basically 16 with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 16 with 8 zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is same as 1.6 into 10 to the power of 9, because there are 8 zeros and there's one more digit, so 1.6 into 10 to the power of 9. 1.6 into 10 to the power of 9. Okay, I hope this part is clear as well. Again, a very simple question. Now we'll move on to question number 10. Question number 10 says, draw the image of triangle A after the reflection in the line y equals 1. Now, what is the line y equals 1? The y equals 1, the line is this line, okay? So if you want to draw a reflection, we take this point. It is 1 square far, so we'll take opposite side 1 square far. This point, on the other hand, it is 2 squares far, so we'll take it as 2 squares far over here as well, which will come down to somewhere here. This point is 1, 2, 3. I mean, this like the topmost point is 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 points away. So we're gonna take 1, 2, 3, and 4. It would go somewhere over here. Then what you're gonna do is connect these points together using our ruler. Always make sure that you use a ruler and a pencil in these questions. And these questions are always there in paper 4, so please do practice them if you're not good at them. Okay, so this is how it's going to look like, and if you see, it looks like exactly a reflection of the image in the line y equals to 1. Okay, the next question is basically that you got to translate triangle A triangle after translation by the vector -6 and 1. Now a -6 vector basically means horizontal, so horizontally you have to move 6 steps left and vertically 1 step upward. So let's take this point over here. 1 minus 6 would be -5, and 1 step up it would go here, and then it goes over here. That is going to be the first point. Okay, now let's move to the second point. The second point is it has the x coordinates of 3. 3 minus 3 is -3, and we're going to add 1, so it goes somewhere over here. After that we have 2. 2 minus 6 is -4, and we're going to add 1 over here, so it would go somewhere over here. After that, what we're going to do is we're going to connect these points together in a straight line. So 1, and then we got another one, which is this one, and we have got another one, which is somewhere over here. So this is how it's going to look like. You can see it exactly looks like our image. It has just been translated. There will be no difference in the size. Okay, and always make sure that all of the points of the lines that you draw, you just make sure that you erase them, because in the other parts it can actually be confusing. Only keep the triangles that you have drawn. Okay, now the next part, it basically says that describe fully the single transformation that takes triangle A to triangle B. Triangle A to triangle B. Now, as the shape is not in the same orientation, obviously it is rotation. So I get 1 mark for writing that it is rotation. So even if you're not able to show like the line or the center of the degree of the rotation and the line, you can simply write this and you'd still get 1 mark. Now, first of all, I want you guys to understand that how it has been rotated. So let's draw this over here. Let this be over here, and then we're gonna take this our tool. We're gonna rotate it. So if you see, it has been let's say rotated like this, and then it has been brought to over here. So we can understand that it has been rotated. Now, how do we figure out the center of rotation? For the center of rotation, the key thing is that you figure out take any 2 corresponding points. Corresponding meaning that they're the same points. Okay, so let me take this point over here. This point is a point where the hypotenuse meets the shortest side, which would be somewhere over here as well. You draw a line which is connecting both of them. Now make sure this is very light, because you're going to erase this later on. Okay, you're going to draw a line. Let this be the line. Choose another set of points. For example, I take this point. This is where the 90 degrees is formed, and this is also where it would be. So I take this and I draw a line which is connecting them both of these. Okay, then I'm going to draw a perpendicular bisector. So perpendicular bisector of this line would be somewhere over here, because 2 squares up and 2 squares down, so it would be somewhere over here. Let me draw this in a different color so that it's clear to you guys. This is for the bottom line. Okay, this line, I'm referring to this line. Perpendicular bisector would look somewhat like this. On the other hand, if you draw the perpendicular bisector of the other line, it would pass through the origin, because there are 3 points up and 3 points down, and then it also has to be perpendicular to this. So this is how it's going to look like. Okay, is this exactly perpendicular? No, it's not perpendicular. Honestly, this light line itself is not the most straight ones. Okay, first of all, let me connect the lines properly. Okay, so this was how it would have looked like. Yeah, so this is our line. The perpendicular bisector, we're going to draw it in green, and it has to be perpendicular to this. It has to pass through the origin. Perpendicular to this. Okay, and it passes through the origin. Okay, so we can see that the perpendicular bisector is this. Now, you might not get an exact value, but if you see an approximation, where exactly do these perpendicular bisectors intersect, it's approximately a 3, -1. So this would be a point. Now we can check this as well. I'm going to erase these lines because we don't need them in our working. We're going to erase these lines as well. Okay, now let's check this. from this point 3 negative 1 to go to this first point, it is 1 2 3 and 1, 3 steps, 1 and 1 step left. If you rotate that by 90 degrees anti-clockwise, that's 3 steps to the left, so 1 2 3, and 1 step down, you reach this point, so it is correct. You want to check for one more point? Let's see the topmost point. For that, you have to move 6 steps upwards normally. So a 90 degrees anti-clockwise rotation would be 6 steps towards the left, which does take you to this point. So hence it is correct. 90 degrees rotation, 90 degrees anti-clockwise. And then what's the angle of this rotation? What's the center? The center is 3, the x coordinate, and -1. I hope this is clear, and make sure that you do practice these questions a lot, because these questions can be tricky sometimes, and 3 marks are obviously very important in this 100-mark paper. Alright, next move on to question number 11. In question number 11, it says that Middle invests $1,500 at a rate of 4.2% per year compound interest. Work out the value of the investment at the end of 5 years. So we're going to have $1,500. This is our, let me write in blue. Okay. So $1,500 is our initial investment, $1,500. And then 1 plus 4.2 over 100, because the percentage of 4.2 over 100 raised to 5 years. That gives me 1842 in my calculator, 0.594854, which can be simply written as 1842.59, because an amount, or you can write in 3 significant figures, it would still be correct. But I prefer to write amounts in at least 2 decimal places, which is the international standard for writing amounts. Okay, the formula is the original value 1 plus the percentage over 100, the entire thing raised to 5. You would get this value for compound interest. Okay, and again, this question is very repeating as well, so please make sure you remember this formula. It's very easy to score in these questions as well. After that, we have a next question. Hitanshi invests some money at a rate of X% per year compound interest. At the end of 11 years, the value of the investment, it has basically doubled. Calculate the value of X. Now here they're not given us the amount, but we do know that whatever the initial investment was, it has doubled over the years. Okay, so for these types of questions, I just like to take any particular value of the investment, which does not matter because it has always been doubled in any of the cases. So I'm going to say let my initial investment be equal to $1,000. Okay, so when I have 1,000, because it's been compounded annually, so 1 plus x over 100, which is x is the percentage over 100, raised to 11, it is going to be 2,000 because it's going to be doubled, right? 1 plus x over 100, now I simply gotta manipulate with algebra. 1 plus x over 100 raised to 11, it's going to be 2,000, because here 1,000 was being multiplied. I would take it in division here, it would become 2. After that, 1 plus x over 100, there would then be, let's say 2 and 11 over here. Now you might be confused how I've got this. Imagine saying it like this: 3 squared is 9, so I can say that 3 is basically 9. So I've removed the power of 2, which was here, and put it outside, which is basically like somewhat like this. Okay, so same here, the power, it was being raised to 11, so at the time I took the root in terms of 11. Okay, x over 100 would then be this root, which is 2, 11 minus 1. So x would simply be 100 into root 2, 11 minus 1. What is the value of x then? The value of x would be 6.504108944. So that is in 3 significant figures, 6.50. X value is 6.50. I hope this is clear. And when you put this value 6.5, the entire value, back into the original equation, which is 1,001 plus x over 100 raised to 11, you should get to 2,000. And if that works, that means your answer is correct. After that, question number 12. A cone has a sloping edge of 12 centimeters and a base radius of 5 centimeters. Calculate the total surface area of the cone. Now the formula that is given at this beginning, it says that the curved surface area of a cone is basically pi RL. Now what does pi RL stand for? So imagine that this is your cone, this is the bottom surface, So the L refers to the slanting length, and the R is basically the radius of the circle at the bottom. So let's work out the curved surface area. Okay, in this question they're telling us that the sloping edge is 12 centimeters and the base radius is 5 centimeters. So the curved surface area would basically be pi into 5 into 12, right? Pi into 5 into 12. But we have to work out the total surface area. Now there's a circle at the bottom, so we need to include the area of that circle as well, because the curved surface area is like only of the top part. So to calculate the area of the bottom is basically a circle, and the circle's area is pi into r square. Pi into r square is basically pi into 5 square. When we add them up, it becomes 85 pi using a calculator, which is simply 267 centimeters squared. Okay, 267 centimeters squared. Again, first of all, you find the curved surface area, but because as for the total surface area, we need to add the area of the circle at the bottom, which is pi r squared, and then I get 267 centimeters. So it's a pretty easy question for 2 marks. Alright, now we'll move on to question number 13. The question number 13 is a 6-mark question with a table which has 3 sequences. Sequences A, sequences B, and sequences C. And they say that complete the table to show the nth term of each sequence. Alright, now let's get along with this question. Just give me a minute. Okay. Now the first sequence is 5, 12, 31, 68, and 129. Now I cannot recognize the pattern immediately. So for any sequence that I cannot recognize the pattern, I'm going to write them down. 5, 12, 31, 68, and 129. I need to work out the common difference between these. Like what am I adding to get the differences? 5 plus 7 would be 12, 12 plus 19 is 31, 31 plus 37 is 68, and 68 plus 61 is 129. After that, I add again. Okay, let's keep adding. So 7 plus 12 would be 19, 19 plus 18 would be 37, and 37 plus 24 is 61. After that, we're going to add another thing, which is basically 12 plus 6 is 18, and 18 plus 6 is 24. So we see that we determine a common difference after 3. So that means this is a cubic sequence, okay? Cubic sequence. For cubic sequence, there are 4 formulas that you all need to remember to actually figure out the entire sequence. Okay. The first one is that 6a should be equivalent of the last difference that you have got, which is 6. So 6a is 6, so a is then 1, okay? 6a is the formula. It should be equivalent of the last difference that you have got. The next one is that 12a plus 2b, this is the formula. It should be equal to the second difference, which is 12. So 12a plus 2b is 12. 12 into 1 plus 2b, it is equivalent of 12. You guys must have figured out by now that 2b will be equivalent of 0 because 12 minus 12 is 0. So b is also 0. After that, the next is 7a plus 3b plus c should be equal to the next difference, which is 7. Okay. So if you figure it out, 7 into 1 plus 3 into 0, which is basically 0, plus c is 7. So c is going to be 7 minus 7. So c is also 0. The last one is a plus b plus c plus d should be equivalent to 5. Okay. So a plus b plus c plus d should be equivalent of the 5, which was the first term. If a is 1, b is 0, and b is 0, c is 0, so d would obviously be 5 minus 1, which is 4. And the sequence is then, the formula for the sequence is an cube plus bn square plus cn plus d, where the a, b, c, d values are constants, which I've calculated, and the n values refers to which term it is on. But because b and c both are 0, we can remove this term, The value of a was 1, so we can simply write n cube plus 4 because the value of d was 4. N cube plus 4, okay? Let's write it down over here, n cube plus 4, okay? N cube plus 4. And I hope that this now makes sense to you guys, that how have we actually figured this out. After that, we have, we can even check this. Now 1 cube plus 4 is 5. 2 cube is basically plus 4 is 12. 3 cube, 31. So hence, this is it. Now, if you guys are not sure that how to solve this question, I guess that you have not learned the formula for cubic sequence or you don't remember it. So please do remember it, because these questions, they often do show up in paper 4. The next one. Now, the next one is fractions, and you might seem a bit confused about fractions at initial, but the easiest thing to do in fractions is consider a separate sequence for numerators and a separate sequence for denominators. So the numerators are 10, 9, 8, 7, and 6. The common difference is -1, and the first term is -1 into the first term plus something, let's say x, is equivalent of 10, right? -1 is the common difference multiplied by n, which is 1, plus x is 10. So x is then simply going to be 10 plus 1, which is 11. So but for the numerator, that my sequence is basically 11 minus n. 11 minus n. Because if I see, the formula is going to be -1n plus 11, so which is can be written as 11 minus n. Okay, now let's consider the denominators. I've used a lot of space over here, so let me just erase this. Obviously, you guys will be much more considerate about your space when you're doing the exam. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So the common difference, as you can see, we're adding up 1, so it has to be 1n. And in the first term, it is 3. So I can add 1n plus 2, because 1 into 1 is 1, plus 2 is 3. 1 into 2 is 2, plus 2 would be 4. So it has to be 1n plus 2 can simply be said as n plus 2. Now you can substitute in the calculator to check. 11 minus 1 over 1 plus 2. That is 10 over 3. 11 minus 2 over 2 plus 2. That is 9 over 4. 11 minus 3 over 3 plus 2. That is 8 over 5. So this is how we get all of the answers. Now we'll move on. Next sequence is 4, 8, 16, 32, and 64. So in this sequence, you can see that all of the terms are somehow a power of 2. This is 2 raised to 2, this is 2 raised to 3, this is 2 raised to 4, this is 2 raised to 5, and this is 2 raised to 6. But when the n is 1, the power is 2. When the n is 2, the power is 3. When the n is 3, the power is 4. When the n is 4, the power is 5. So basically, whatever the n is, we're just adding to that and we're raising that to the 2. So we can simply say 2n plus 1. Now let's check it out. 2 raised to 1 plus 1 is 4, which is correct. 2 raised to 2 plus 1 is 8. 2 raised to 3 plus 1 is 16, etc. And this is how we've gotten it. So sequences are all about practice along with that identification of whatever sequence it is. Now we'll move on to question number 14. Question number 14 tells us that f of x is 5 minus 4x. Find f of -3. Simply substitute -3 in the equation. 5 minus 4 times -3. Minus 4 times -3 is 12. So 5 plus 12, it is going to be 17. Pretty easy question. This one is 17. Then the next part. Find f of 3 minus 2x. When it says f of 3 minus 2x, you replace the x value with 3 minus 2x. So 5 minus 4 times 3 minus 2x. Okay, so that is going to be 5. Minus 4 times minus 3 is minus 12. And this is going to be 8x. So 8x, 5 minus 12 is 7. 8x minus 7. 8x minus 7. We just replaced the x value with 3 minus 2x and then we just simplified it. Find f inverse of x. So for f inverse of x, we just write it down as y is equivalent of 5 minus 4x. After that, you want to rearrange this so that x is a subject. So 4x is going to be bring other side, 5 minus y. X is going to be 5 minus y divided by 4. So it would be replace y with x now, 5 minus x divided by 4. And what does this mean? Now let's take the original one, which is 5 minus 4x. Choose a random value for x. Let's say x is 5. 5 minus 4 times 5, it is equivalent of -15. But if I take the value of -15 now and 5 minus -15, which is basically 5 plus 15, divided by 4, it would give me 5, which was the original value that I put in the calculator. So the input to this function, you get an output. If I put that output value as an input to f inverse of x, I would get the same input back. It just reverses the function in the sense. And that's why it's called as f inverse of x. After that, we move on to question number 15. Question number 15 tells us that Virat records the height of each of the 80 sunflowers. Frequencies are given. Calculate the estimate for the mean height. Now for the mean height, you would need to know the midpoints of all of these, the midpoints of all of these classes. For the midpoint between 1.2 and 1.5 is 1.35. The midpoint between 1.5 and 1.6 is 1.55. The midpoint between 1.6 and 1.7 is 1.65. And the midpoint between 1.7 and 1.9 is 1.8. If you're unsure, what you do is 1.2 plus 1.5 divided by 2, the entire thing, and you'd get 1.35. Okay? After that, what you do is you multiply. So the midpoint 1.35 times the frequency, which is 12. After that, the midpoint 1.55 times the frequency, which is 20. After that, we have 1.65 times 34. And after that, we have 1.8 times 14. 1.8 times 14, 1.665 times 34, 1.55 times 20, 1.35 over to 12, divided by the total frequency, which is 80. So what is that going to be equivalent of? 1.60625, which in three significant figures is 1.61. All right, I hope this part is clear as well. However, some people prefer to leave their height in the same exact value because this is not like a non-ending value. It does terminate, but I prefer writing it in three significant figures for the safest option. The next one says draw a histogram to show the information in the table. For the histogram, we need to calculate the frequency density, and the formula for frequency density is frequency divided by the class width. Okay. Now let's see how we do it. For the first one, let's say the frequency is 12, so we're going to do 12 divided by the class width. The class width is basically the upper boundary, which is 1.5, minus the lower boundary, 1.2. I'm going to show it for one of them, and the rest of them you can calculate by yourself. 12, which is the frequency divided by the class width of 1.5 minus 1.2. What do I get as my frequency density is going to be 40. So between 1.2 and 1.5, my frequency density is 40. It would look somewhat like this. Obviously, this is not that straight, and it would go somewhere over here. Some people prefer shading here as well, but I personally do not prefer shading. At least not on the device. All right, now let's calculate the next frequency density, which is from 1.5 to 1.6. So the frequency is 20, and the class width is 1.6 minus 1.5. That is going to be 200. So between 1.5 and 1.6, it is 200. Okay, the next one, it is basically 34 divided by 1.7 minus 1.6, 340. Between 1.6 and 1.7, right? Okay, 1.6 and 1.7, 340. All right, now let's move on to the next question. I'm sorry, there was some type of particular glitch. We're not moving to the next question, but we're basically moving on to the next diagram. So we had calculated for 1.7, which is frequency density was 340. After that, we have one more category left, one more class left, which is 14. The frequency is 14 divided by the frequency density, which is the class width, which is 1.9 minus 1.7. That gives you 70. So this is going to be 70. 50, 60, 70, all the way up to here. I hope this is clear. A very simple formula: frequency density is frequency of a class width. Now, sometimes in these questions, what they ask you to do is that the histogram is given, and they ask you to calculate the value of the frequency. So in those types of questions, you would multiply the class width times the frequency density to obtain the frequency. So they would basically give you this histogram, and they will ask you to complete this table. So please make sure that you do know how to do that as well. Just in reverse procedure, and that is. After that, we move on to question number 16, which says the graph shows the speed of a cyclist during a journey of 30 seconds. Write down the acceleration of the cyclist between 15 seconds and 25 seconds. Between 15 seconds and 25 seconds, the speed time graph, it's a straight line. That means constant speed. And the acceleration is rate of change of velocity by time. But if the change in the velocity is 0, that means acceleration is also 0. So that's why this acceleration is 0. That's why they have write it down and not actually calculated. They're just testing understanding. So whenever there's a straight section of this speed time graph, straight, that means horizontal, acceleration is always 0. By drawing a tangent, estimate the acceleration of the cyclist as 7.5 seconds. Now, where is 7.5 seconds? It's somewhere over here. And we know that the gradient of the speed time graphs, it gives you your acceleration. So we would draw a tangent because it's a curve, we can't exactly calculate it. We draw a tangent and then we calculate the gradient of that tangent. So this is our tangent, and if we take any 2 points, let's say, which particular point? I can take this point, and I can take, let's say, this point. So what is this point now? This point, the x coordinates are going to be 14, and the y coordinates are going to be 9. No, I mean, 9. On the other hand, this point, for this point, the x coordinates are going to be, this is 0, so this is 1, so this is going to be 2, and the y coordinates are going to be, 5.2. So the gradient would be the y2 9 minus 5.2 over 9 minus 5.2 divided by 14 minus 2. That is going to be somewhat between 0.317. The acceleration that I get is 0.317. All right, here we go. So basically, there was another glitch. I don't know what's happening with my device today. So basically, we had to draw a tangent. We draw the tangent, and then we found the acceleration. The points are 14 and 9 and 2.5 and 2. Let me just write down those both points for you. 14 and 9. So one point is 14, comma 9. The other point is 2.2 and 5.2. Sorry, 2 and 5.2. So now to calculate the gradient between these 2 points, we're going to do 9 minus 5.2 over 14 minus 2, which is 0.317 meters per second square. Meters per second, or meters per second raised to negative 2. 0.317 meters per second squared. So basically, obviously the tangent, it's not same for everyone, so your values might differ, and there will be a range of answers given in the marking scheme. If your answer lies within that range, that means you're good. Work out the average speed of the cyclist between 15 seconds and 30 seconds. Now between 50 seconds and 30 seconds, that is basically from here, this region, okay, the average speed is the total distance traveled over the total time taken. So first of all, we know the time taken is 15 seconds. What's the distance traveled? The distance traveled is the area under the curve for a speed time curve. So this is a speed time graph, and the distance would be the area under this part. So first of all, I'll find the area between 15 and 25, which is a square. So the distance traveled, the distance that has been traveled between 15 and 30 seconds, the area of the first part is 10 into 8. How did I get 10 into 8? If you see the rectangle, the width of the rectangle is basically to 15 to 25, that's 10. The height is, however, 8. So 15, that's 10 into 8, that is 18. The other thing that I have is a triangle. It's a right angle triangle with a base of 5 and the height of 8. So half into 5 into 8 plus half into 5 into 8. And when I do that in my calculator, I get 100 meters. If I divide 100, the total distance traveled over the time taken, I would get 6.67 meters per second. 6.67 meters per second. Okay. The question is, work out the average speed of the cyclist between 15 and 30 seconds. So the distance is, I figure out the total distance, which would be the area under the curve, that is 100, and divided by the time, which is 15. So I have to get 6.67 meters per second. All right, now let's move on to the next question. The next question says the diagram shows 3 points A, B, C on the horizontal ground, and the bearing of C from A is 145 degrees. Now, whenever there's a bearings question, I like to draw these lines to make sure that it becomes easy to do later on. The bearing of C from B is 145. C from A is 145. So that means this bearing, it is 145. And the angle ACB is given. Find the bearing of B from C. So we have to find this angle. Okay. If we see this part, this is a co-interior angle with 145. So 180 minus 145, it would be 35. And then if you do 360 minus that, you would get the same thing. Okay. So 180 minus 145 is 35. After that, 360 minus 35 minus 38 is 287. 287. Okay. What I did was, because these two lines are perpendicular to each other, the line at A and the line at C, they're perpendicular. The angle 145 and the angle between the 35 angle, they're co-interior angle. So they have to add up to 180. This is how I got 35. After that, angles around a point at 360. To calculate the bearing, I just have to do 360 minus 38 plus 35, which is 287. Show that AB is 59.3. Now AB is 59.3, we can use the cosine rule. And how do we know that we have to use the cosine rule? Because the opposite angle is given, which is 58, and the two sides are also given, which are 65 and 95. So I simply use my cosine rule here. The cosine rule AB, it will be equivalent of the root of 65 squared plus 95 squared minus 2 times 65 into 95 into the value of cos of 38. The cosine rule is given on the front page if you're not sure about it. This gives you 59.31329693 divided, which is basically 59.3 meters. Hence, we have proved that it is 59.3 correct to the nearest meters. Okay. So remember, in a cosine rule, the formula is that a square equal to b square plus c square minus 2bc cos a. So the a and b values are the two sides, and the cos a is the angle between the two. So if you know the two sides and the angle between the two, then you can calculate the length of the opposite side using the cosine rule. After that, it says that angle BAC is obtuse. So basically, this angle is obtuse. This angle, it is obtuse. Work out the bearing of B from A. So they want us to work out this entire big angle, which would be something plus 145. For that, we have to work out the angle BAC. BAC. Now, for BAC, I can use a sine rule. Sine of BAC over 95. It is equivalent of the sine of 38 divided by 59.31329693. If you want to understand how that worked, so basically, the sine rule says sine theta over the opposite side, which is 95, and sine 38 over the opposite side, which is AB. Okay. After that, in order to calculate the angle BAC, it is going to be sine inverse of 95 into sine of 38. 95 into sine of 38 divided by 59.31329693. Okay, so BAC value, it is going to be equivalent of 80.42996062. 180 minus 80.42996062 would simply be 99.570039 and 38. Okay, now basically we found the value of BAC to be 80.42996062, but because it says obtuse, this is not the correct value. This is the acute angle. To find the obtuse of this angle, you have to do 180 minus this angle, and hence you'll get 99. After that, now remember, this is only this angle BAC. We have to add this to 145 to get the entire bearing. So the bearing would then be 99.57003938 plus 145, which is 245 if you round it to three significant figures, 245. I hope this question is clear as well. The only confusing part is that why haven't I taken 80? Because 80 is an acute angle and they have said that it's obtuse. Many people actually mess up over here and lose a lot of marks then. After that, question number 18a, factorize 18a squared minus 98. I can write this down because both of them are even numbers. I can write this down as 2 into 9a squared minus 49. And 9a squared minus 49, it can simply written as 3a plus 7 into 3a minus 7. The property that I've used here is that a squared minus b squared is simply adds a plus b into a minus b. And 9a squared is basically 3a the whole square. 49 is 7, so 2 into 3a plus 7, 3a minus 7. 2 into 3a plus 7 and 3a minus 7. After that, expand and simplify x plus 4, 2x minus 1 and x minus 2. Now, how do we expand and how do we simplify at the same time? X plus 4, I'm going to leave this aside and I'm going to multiply the other two, 2x minus 1 and x minus 2. Now, what is 2x into x? That's 2x squared. 2x into minus 2, that's minus 4x, sorry. And negative 1 into x is negative 1x. Negative 1 into negative 2 is positive 2. That's going to become x plus 4 into 2x squared minus 5x plus 2. Now we're going to multiply this. So multiply all of the terms with x first. 2x cubed minus 5x squared plus 2x. After that, multiply everything with 8. So that's going to become 8x squared minus 20x plus 8. Okay, because 4 into 2 is 8. So you get 2x cubed minus 5x squared plus 2x plus 8x squared minus 20x plus 8, which can be simplified to 2x cubed plus 3x squared minus 18x plus 8. So that is 2x cubed plus 3x squared minus 18x plus 8. 2x cubed minus 3x squared, 2x cubed plus 3x squared minus 18x plus 8. You can verify this as well. Simply put the original expression, which is x plus 4, 2x minus 1, 2x minus 1, and x minus 2 in your calculator with some value of x which has been fixed in your calculator, 10,470. I'm getting with a random value of x. If I use that same value and if I substitute it over here, 3x squared minus 18x plus 8, I'm going to get the same value. So basically I'm substituting x value in the final one and the original one. If I get the same answer, that means it is correct. After it says solve the equation 2 plus 5 cos x is 0. So 5 cos x, it is equivalent of negative 2. And then cos x, it is going to be negative 2 over 5. Okay, so if I want to find it, I could simply do cos inverse of negative 2 over 5. This is going to be equivalent of 113.5781785. Okay, now remember that whenever they ask us for two values, for cos values, what you do is you do 360 minus the first value that you get, 360 minus theta. Okay, and if it's a negative value, then what you do is you just add 360. If it's a negative theta value and you want to get the answer between 0 and 360, you just add 360 to that value. Since this is a positive value, I'm going to do 360 minus 113.5781785. That is going to give me 246.4218215. So one value is 113.6. The other value is 246.4. 113.6 and 246.4. Okay, so remember you have to calculate one value, and you can check this value as well. So when you put both of these values, like the entire values in the original equation, which is 2 plus 5 cos x, you should get 0. And if you do get that, that means your answers are correct. Be careful of the range, which is 0 to 360. After that, a piece of metal, it has a volume of 1240, correct to the nearest 20 centimeter cubed. The mass of the piece of metal is 7,800 grams, correct to the nearest 100 grams. Calculate the lower bound of the density of the metal. Now we know that density is mass divided by volume. And for division, if you want to find the lower bound, you have to take the lower bound of this number. This number has to be the lower bound, and this number has to be the upper bound. Now what's the lower bound of the mass? The mass right now it's 7,800 and it is given to the nearest 100. To find the lower bound, I would do subtract 50 with this, because the half of 100 is 50. Divided by, what's the volume? It is 1240. And to find the upper bound, I would add 10 to it, because 20, it's given as 20. So half of 20 is 10. First you half it, and then you add if you want to find the upper bound, and you subtract if you want to find the lower bound. When I do the division, it's going to be 6.2. 6.2 grams per centimeter cubed. I hope that's clear as well. For division, lower boundary means lower boundary of upper boundary. And if you want in the upper boundary of the density, it would be the upper bound of the mass divided by the lower bound of the volume. They always have to be opposite of each other. After that, OAB is a triangle. OAB is a triangle. C is the midpoint. And OC is given as M and OCB is given as N. E lies on AB such that AE to EB is 4:5. Find in terms of M and N the position vector of E. Now you can say that A to E, it would basically, example, let's say the entire line A to B is 9. The unit is 9, or the length is 9. So A to E, it's going to be 4 out of 9 of that, because it says 4:5. And B would be, this one is going to become 5 out of 9. This is the share of the lengths. In order to find the position vector of E, I need to find either B. I need to find B to A, and then the B to E would just be a fraction of that entire thing. What's the vector of B to A? What's the vector of B to A first? In order to go from B to A, I can go down along this path, like which is negative n, and then go from C to A. C to A, it is basically M, because it says that OA is a straight line, and OC is M and C is the midpoint. So this would also be M. So to go from B to A, I would need to go the opposite path of N, which is going to be negative N, plus add another thing, which is M, negative N plus M, which is M minus N, right? M minus N. So this would be the same path over here as well. So BA is basically M minus N. BE would just be 5 over 9 of this path. So to B to E, it is 5 over 9 of the path of M minus N, which is 5 over 9M minus 5 over 9N. Okay. After that, the next thing is, how do you go from, we have figured out how to go from B to E. To go from O to E, I need to go from O to C, then C to B, and then B to E. O to C, it is M, okay, and C to B, it is N, and then we have to add BE, which is 5 over 9M minus 5 over 9N. This will become, basically, okay, if I missed out this step, to go from O to E, I need to go from O to C plus C to B plus B to E. That is, which translates to this BE, no, I mean not this one. It would go directly to this step, which is M plus N. M is for O to C. C to B, it is N. Then B to E, it is 5 over 9M minus 5 over 9N. This will become 14 over 9M minus 4 over 9, I mean plus 4 over 9N. 14 over 9M plus 4 over 9 into the value of N. Again, what I did, I figured out the alternative path from B to A, which would give me the path in terms of M and N. B to E would just be 5 over 9 of that path. After I found B to E, I simply need to do O to C, C to B, and B to E, and then add them together and simplify as well. I hope this question is clear to you guys. Now, the next question is question number 22. It says that line y equal to 4x plus 12 intersects a line y equal to 2x squared minus x minus 3 at the points P and at the points Q. Find the coordinates of the point P and find the coordinates of the point Q. Now, when they intersect, the y values of both of these will be equal. So we can equate both of them together. 4x plus 12, it will be equal to 2x squared minus x minus 3, because the y values, the output of both of these would be the same at the point of intersection. So 2x squared, negative x is there, and if I bring the negative 4 from the other side, it will become negative 5x. Negative 3 and negative 12 is negative 15. It is equivalent of 0. I will use my quadratic formula, so negative b, which is going to be somewhat like this, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is negative 5 squared, minus 4 into the value of a into the value of c over 2 times the value of a. Okay, this is how it's going to look like, and this is the answer they'll give me will become 5 plus minus the root of 145 divided by 4. Okay, these are the values from x, which are 4.26 if you put the plus value and negative 1.76. So I've got the x coordinates to be 4.26 and negative 1.76. In order to get the y coordinates, I have to simply substitute these x coordinates in the equation, which is 4x plus 12. So 4 times 5 plus the root of 145 over 4 plus 12. Because the x value I'm going to substitute the exact x value, which I got from the quadratic formula. This would give me 29.04. And if I substitute 4 times 5 minus the root of 145 over 4 plus 12, it is going to give me 4.96. So 29.04 and 4.96 is going to be my answer. Again, be very sure about this. Very easy thing. First of all, you equate them, you find the x values, you substitute the x values, the exact x values to get the y values. And all answers are supposed to be in 2 decimal places, so that's why I've given all answers to 2 decimal places. Next up, question number 23, which is the last question. It says the diagram shows the major segment of a circle, center O, radius 2.5 meters. The segment is a cross section of the tunnel with a height of 3 meters. The length of the tunnel is 800 as the same cross section throughout, and calculate the volume of the tunnel. Now, whenever they say that it's a cross section, that means in order to find the volume, it would basically be the surface area of this, which is basically the surface area of the cross section, the area of the cross section times the volume, the length, which is 800. The volume of the tunnel will be the area of this the figure that is given to us times 800. Now let's break down this figure. This figure is a segment of a circle but has been cut off. So we can say that this length, it would be 2.5 because this is a radius, 2.5 meters. And so will this length be 2.5 meters, right? This length also be 2 because it's a radius. So what would this length be then? This would be, because the entire height is 3, 3 minus 2.5 is 0.5. Okay, so we have a triangle which is 2.5, it's the hypotenuse, and 0.5 is this part, okay? 0.5 is the height, which is basically this triangle I'm referring to over here. How can we find the other length of this triangle? Simply use Pythagoras theorem. So Pythagoras theorem is going to give me 2.5 squared minus 0.5 squared, which is basically root 6. So this length, it would be root 6. Okay, this length is root 6. I'm going to move this down. Okay, we have got this length to be root 6. Now we need to find the area of these two triangles first. So if I do 2, the area is half into the base, which is root 6, into the height, which is going to be 0.5. When I put this in my calculator, I get an exact value for area, which is root 6 over 2. Okay, so this, I found the area for this part. Okay, I have found the area for, let's say, this part. The next thing I need to figure out is how do I find the area for the other, which is basically a segment of a circle. I know the radius, so only if I know this angle, then only I can find the area. But there's no value given for this angle. But I know that if I figure out this angle and if I double it, which is the area and angle inside the triangle, if I increase it, which I double it, and then I do 360 minus that angle, I would get the main angle. So let's figure out this angle. Basically, I'm trying to refer to this angle. In order to get this angle, I'm going to do tan inverse opposite, which is root 6, over the adjacent, which is 0.5. This gives me 78.46304.097. Okay, this is tan inverse of this part. Okay, this is tan inverse. Now you got to multiply this with 2. So 78.46304.097, multiply that with 2. It is going to be 156.9260819. After that, so we have figured out this big angle, which is the angle, and if I do 360 minus this angle, I would get the angle of the circle, segment of the circle, the major segment. 360 minus 156.9260819 is 203.739181. Now I know this angle. How do I find the area of the top circle? The area of a segment is theta over 360 into pi r squared. So theta value is 2.3.739181 over 360 into pi into 2.5 squared, pi r squared. That gives me basically 11.07596405. If I add this area to the area of the other two triangles that I've got, which was this area, so 11.07596405 plus the root of root 6 over 2, root 6 divided by 2, it gives me 12.30070,892. Okay, I've got this. This is the value for the area of the circle, the area of the total part. And now I'm just multiplying this area 12.30070,892 with 800 to find the volume, which will be 9840.567135, which can be given as 3 significant figures would be 9840. If you all want to review what has been given on this 7-mark question, first of all, this was the image given and asked us to find in the volume. This is the cross-sectional area. So I take this, and this is going to be 2 of my triangles, and the height is given as 0.5 because this part was 2.5. Okay, then I can find the area of both of these triangles, and I also can find the angle of this triangle, increase that, double that to find the other angle, and then the 360 minus that would give me the angle of the major segment. Then I find the area of the two triangles and the area of the major segment. I add them together to get the value of 12.3, which was somewhere over here, and then multiply that with 800 to get 9840. This is a 7-mark question, so be very careful and make sure that you do this question by yourself. Okay, and I would suggest you to take exact values either in the surd form or in the decimal form, rather than rounding off the values, because if you keep rounding off the values, your answer is way much more farther than the actual answer without the rounded values. Okay, with that, we reach the end of this paper. I hope this video has helped you. There are certain questions that I haven't shown you how to do them, but I've given you ample explanation. Still, if you have any doubts, please post them down in the comment below and I shall respond as soon as possible. If you have any video suggestions, please do post them below. I would greatly appreciate them and try to make those videos to help you guys. Good luck on your preparation and I'll see you in the next video. Till that, please do like, share and subscribe and take care of yourself. Alright, goodbye.